So I'd like to talk to you about a musician, recording artist. I don't know what you would call him. He's on Bandcamp, and um, I mean, understandably, I feel like he's being kind of underlooked. Uh, by the name of Joplin Rice, and so basically, let's see my notes here. I'm such a bad YouTuber. I'm being a YouTuber. Uh, Basically, I first discovered him personally in 2012 with an album, Hurricane Alaska, and I really enjoyed that album. It was, I think, something that's been kind of sorely lacking in a lot of indie rock um, in the last decade or more. Uh, there was some really great songwriting on there, some great it was kind of reminiscent of like a Pavement or something, where they had taken cues from a lot of 70s country rock or whatever, and use that, infuse that with kind of a punkiness and almost, I don't want to turn people away, but almost like a 90s emo, like, there's definitely a little bit of sad guy in that, but like within reason, it never gets too self-absorbed, right? Which is something that a lot of anything emo tinged has to keep aware of, because otherwise you just become insufferable. This is a guy who's gone mostly undiscovered on Bandcamp, and I mean, I understand Bandcamp is a platform, kind of notoriously full of trash. Nobody wants to sift through that, and I feel like it leads to some people getting maybe a little bit unfairly overlooked, but, that's the nature of the platform, given that everyone can be a part of it. Uh, so, yeah, his music is kind of guitar driven and kind of, I don't want to call it country rock, um, because it's got some bad connotations, but definitely that same vein of indie rock, with the songwriting being just forefront, everything uh, about the song is in service of just great songwriting, just a really chilled out, cool groove. So he's kind of just been chipping away making this music for years now, and so now it's 2019. He released an album called Good Boy, and this is where it gets really special. I genuinely think, if there were any justice in this world, there would be like 20-year-old dudes just carrying this around on vinyl. And they'd be like, "Yeah, man, like this album's my life." It's there would be arguments about it on internet forums. Like, uh, I think it's worthy of that. Like I think it really touched. It's a really touching album. So basically, it's got this hard on its sleeve quality, which is present in his other music, but I think he manages to, he pulls this off without really without being obnoxious, without being too self-absorbed, like I said earlier, with anything that has that influence of kind of emo-y, you're gonna get the risk of just coming off as a total fuck, like just being really obnoxious. Uh, so he presents these beautiful melodies. They've got a lot of power to them. This whole album, it feels like an explosion. Like something like his entire songwriting career, if that's what you want to call it, like it's been leading up to this moment. Um, and On previous albums, he'd played around with synths a bit, maybe sound a bit self-conscious, and now, on this one, it's just straight ahead, like guitar odyssey. You like bands like Built to Spill or Dinosaur Jr. It's very reminiscent sometimes of those where you've got these noodly guitar solos, but in a very unpretentious way. It never comes off as like a pretentious or trying to be something it's not. It's just very personal sounding, but at the same time, you know, very smart and very anthemic sometimes. But it really paints a picture, like a lot of Midwestern indie rock paints a picture of like big spaces, melancholy. It's and but with this humanity to it, this warmth. You got really shambolic guitars, just kind of chugging along sometimes. You've he does he does these slower acoustic pieces sometimes on the album, and uh, I'm usually wary of that because personally, I get bored really easy with this kind of music. Uh, he maybe feels the same way. I don't know, but all the acoustic pieces are just a minute and a half. It's really good because you capture the mood, you capture that feeling. He gets the ideas out and then he's gone. Go to the next song. Um, Sometimes the songs get a little bit more jammy. Sometimes the band really brings out that's where I talk about like Built to Spill or Dinosaur Jr. They have their big jams. And so again, he manages to pack a lot of ideas into a pretty small space. I remember I listened to this for the first time, and I thought, wow, these some of these songs must be like 6 or 7 minutes. They're long songs, but the reality of it is that they're not really. There's not really any songs that pass over 5.5 minutes. It's a pretty standard song length. It's just that he manages to do a lot with in a not a lot of time. So each song on this album kind of complements the other songs too. It's very much an album in the way that, like, with a lot of those older '90s indie rock albums that you don't see as much anymore, there's kind of a through line. It's not as if the songs lead into each other, but um, it's not just a collection of singles. The songs each fulfill their own purpose in the album, and it starts and it sucks you into the world, and drags you along, and when it ends, it kind of lets you out, and you kind of wake up realizing where you are. It's got that quality where when you're listening to it, you are fully absorbed into its world. And again, I think that's a really impressive accomplishment, not just for someone on Bandcamp, but someone who's making music, making an album. This is ambitious beyond kind of a bedroom folky thing. So I mean, obviously, you can see I'm not a YouTuber. I don't make videos like this. I don't know how to make videos like this. But I think what it is I make music myself, and I understand, when you're just putting stuff out there and it feels like, no one's listening, and you feel like this thing you've made is, it has value, or you're trying to say something, or you think that you've genuinely accomplished something. And, I think that should be rewarded. People should be hearing this stuff, and I think it deserves to be heard, and I think people would enjoy it too. I think, it's a pleasure to listen to. It's not like this is work or anything. This is like, wow, this album. I finished it and I just kind of sat there and I went, wow, holy shit. I listened to it a few more times recently. It's really high quality. Again, the artist is Joplin Rice. The album is Good Boy.